Hey, sorry about that. The software that I'm using to record this has a maximum record time of 15 minutes and it cut me off. So I'm going to jump right back in. Conversely, looking at the opposite of a strong academic tone, that would include writing that is conversational. There are conversational phrases, words, idioms, expressions included in that writing, things that we often find in our spoken conversational word. Um, it's unorganized with no preemptive logical structure. That includes structure to your sentences, the words that formulate your sentences, the sentences that formulate your paragraphs, and the paragraphs and sections that formulate your overall piece of academic writing that you're working on. It's informal in nature. That connects back to both of those bullet points. Oftentimes, the opposite of a strong academic tone exhibits no clear, concise supporting details. These are all of the necessary details that the reader needs to be able to clearly understand the points that you're making. And not only those points, but also the assertions and claims and reasons and the evidence you're integrating to actually support those ideas and reasons. The opposite of a strong academic tone is often littered with grammatical and syntactical mistakes. For instance, some common mistakes that are made with starting writers in academia is that there are contractions included, and in academic writing, we do not use contractions. We always spell words out. And there are many different other types of examples of those that I'll show you in the future and that we'll work on in this class. But yeah, the writing is often heavily laden with grammatical errors. And finally, not to be overstated, it's too personal and infused with what one believes, thinks, or perceives. There is a lack of separation between the writing and subjectivity and personal life experience, which is the opposite of what you want to do in academic writing with a strong academic tone. That oftentimes trickles down to word choice in your sentences. Sometimes words are too pathos or emotionally laden or too emotionally driven, which connects yourself, it connects your bias to whatever topic or situation you may be writing about. And so even down to the particular word choice that you're trying to adopt for certain sentences, you have to start thinking about, is this too subjective? Is it too personal to use this type of word for academic writing? Let's talk about ways to elevate your tone. When I say elevate, I mean improve. In other words, these are some methods that you can use to bridge the gap from where you may be now to where you should be for academic writing. I'll go through a list and I'm hoping to show you a few specific examples that may help as you're writing your assignments in real time. Eliminate any and all conversational words or phrases. Many of you will see in the writing, in your writing assignments that I've returned to you so far, I think almost everybody has had some type of instance of conversational phrase, too conversational, too idiom-based, trite expression. All of these are ways of saying that the writing has too many conversational words in it, or that a particular word or phrase may be too conversational. Any of these instances are indicative of spoken word. Certain expression, for instance, raining cats and dogs, or at the end of the day. These types of expressions are ones that we often use in informal speech, and sometimes it trickles into writing. And so these are the words and phrases we want to eliminate. One that's often used that people don't think about, I think, is at the end of a piece of writing, one may say to conclude or in conclusion. That's another type of conversational word that's and phrase that's a little elementary. It's oftentimes used in high school, middle school, but we never use that phrase in academic writing. We always find more thought-provoking ways to conclude our writing. So obviously this is an umbrella. We'll cover different examples to help you understand certain phrases and words to avoid. I will also put together an English 110 list of prohibited items that will help guide you with selecting some words or revising, eliminating some of those conversational words that will also have some specific examples to help you. You can find that document on our main Canvas page at the very bottom of the page under one of those tabs. And there's also another document, the Academic Tone Inventory, that I'll introduce you to momentarily. Another very common element of elevating tone is moving from simple and compound sentence structures to more complex and compound complex sentence structures. Oftentimes, and I think we've all experienced this at some point when we read a piece of writing that's been poorly put together, or a piece of writing exhibiting a lower level or caliber of academic tone, that the sentences are all very small. They're all very elementary with no real variance. And what that does is, when you have a bunch of simple sentence structures that are strung or fused together, the reading is very choppy. It doesn't read naturally. It doesn't flow. It doesn't lend to a greater understanding of the meaning in or behind that writing. And the idea is to grow from that to compound complex sentence structures with different types of phrases, dependent phrases that rely on independent phrases, that utilize stronger, more innovative use of punctuation that many people avoid, such as the semicolon. It's a different way to add variance, to add flow, and to add more sophisticated language structure to your writing. And we will practice that. That's something that takes practice also, because you do have to go back to the basics and understand the building blocks of sentence structure and phrases, and how certain phrases rely on other phrases and how you tie it all together. So that takes practice, but we will work on that. Do not be afraid of punctuation. Use it to vary how you write. I touched on that in the last bullet point. There are so many different punctuation resources available that I think people forget. And predominantly, starting academic writers rely on commas and periods to the point where they're used incorrectly and lend to grammar mistakes. And so it really doesn't help you. It retracts from the impact your writing could have and the flow of your sentences. So really understanding what punctuation is, when to use what, how to use what, and also using things that I think people are afraid of, like the semicolon, the hyphen, the dash, the ellipses. These are specific punctuation elements that you can use to insert, for instance, emphasis. If you want to really highlight a strong point in a particular sentence, the ellipses and the hyphen are excellent tools to do that. Of course, word choice, using higher level words. Never use get, got, gotten for a verb. Don't start sentences with this or that. Use the specific details or the wording of what you're referring to with this or that. It's really being strategic about the types of words that you're using. Oftentimes, a starting point for elevating your tone is looking at your verbs and finding stronger, more impactful verbs. Instead of have, I have an academic degree, I was conferred an English degree. Really looking at words that imbue your writing with more meaning to make it more specific. Of course, using correct grammar. So there's all of the standard rules one must normally follow, with no contractions in academic writing. Present ideas in a logical, organized way, and always stay objective. Never choose words that are too emotionally laden or that would show or be indicative of the fact that you're too closely associated with the writing to be objective. We've looked at a few punctuation and grammar conventions that you can use in your writing in a video previously on Canvas, but I wanted to take an opportunity to show you just an example of what I mean here. When we talk about simple sentence structures, the first sentence that I've highlighted is somewhat indicative of that. So this sentence reads, Gloria got her English degree from Wingate University in 2020. She studied technical and business writing. It was a difficult experience, but she learned a lot. When reading that, it's clear that those are very small sentences with no real structure. It's very choppy because of that. There are many different conversational words here in this sentence. For instance, got, and so the idea is, how can we take this type of sentence and transform it into something that is more academic? And so I've written a slightly improved version here. Gloria was conferred her English degree from Wingate University in 2020. She studied technical and business writing with a minor in psychology. Although it was a difficult experience, she amassed a wealth of knowledge. And you'll notice a few things here. First of all, I got rid of got. in a manner of speaking. I eliminate that word because it is such a waste word. There are always stronger words you can use. And so what I did was I included a stronger word that had more impact on the meaning of the sentence. Instead of got, a vague waste word, I included the word conferred, which means to be awarded in an academic way. Gloria was conferred her English degree from Wingate University in 2020. There is so much more detail in just that phrase alone because of that one word swap from got to conferred. And also, you'll notice that I've added some more detail in the next phrase. She studied technical and business writing with a minor in psychology. To understand the overall context of Gloria's degree conferral in this example, we need to know what she studied and include the relevant details. So she studied business and technical writing, but also psychology. So we included that as an essential detail in that phrase. You'll also notice that in order to avoid the choppy sentence structure, I started using a different type of punctuation here. I included the semicolon. Many people are, I think, afraid of the semicolon. All you really need to know is that on both sides, front and back of the semicolon, you have to have an independent thought or phrase, or a phrase that can stand by itself as its own complete thought or sentence. And so oftentimes, instead of just using a period in those instances, such as right here, you can transform that period, instead adopt a semicolon structure, which reads better. It adds more variance to the writing, it adds more pause, but still flows the sentence together. And so it now reads, Gloria was conferred her English degree from Wingate University in 2020. She studied technical and business writing with a minor in psychology. And instead of leaving this third phrase as its own phrase at the end of the sentence or its own simple sentence, I wanted to fuse all of this together to make one compound, complex sentence structure. And something that people can do that I don't think they know to do or haven't been taught, they can use a hyphen here. And so where this would traditionally be two sentences, the sentence ends here, the sentence starts here, you can press the dash key, which should be two keys to the left of the backspace key on your keyboard. Looks like that. So in these instances where you want to pause for emphasis, but still keep all of the ideas in the same sentence, you can press that dash key twice like that with no space and press enter. It will fuse it. Let's do it. I think it's because I've already broken it. Yeah. So you press it, say you end this word, psychology, dash, enter. You'll see that it fused that into a hyphen. And then you can backspace the rest of your sentence. You'll see that hyphen inserted. And what that does is just allows for you to add emphasis, to pause, to segue to another idea, but still keep all of those ideas in the same sentence. Another grammar technique that you can use for that is what we call the ellipses, which is a series of periods. So she studied technical and business writing with a minor in psychology, period, space. Although it was a difficult experience, she amassed a wealth of knowledge. So those two punctuations marks in particular are ones that I want everyone to start thinking about. It's my own tip for how to start combining your phrases and creating more complex sentences. That again is the dash, the hyphen, like that, or the ellipses. And also start looking at using the semicolon and try to transform your sentences from one that looks like this. It's very choppy, doesn't really have a lot of details or a lot of meaning, and look at transforming it into a sentence like this, where you have variance, there are different types of punctuation that's used, the sentence flows better, and it's more academic, it's elevated. And this is just a small example of some very small ways that you can start transforming your sentences.